Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Gibby reps NJ. With the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? It's real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to yapping.
What is up, everyone? As you can see, I'm riding solo this week. Matt Ibanez here, a.k.a. Ibby. Till Mets Do Us Part. Checking in with you live on a Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. And look, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to our New York Mets. I'm going to get to the comments in a moment. But of course, as always, shout out to Brella Sports and John Minconi and the entire crew for allowing us to do what we do on a weekly basis here with Till Mets Do Us Part. And of course, shout out and love to everyone that's already filling up the chat. We got 40 here so far. I'm sure that room's going to fill up as the show goes on. And like I said before, we got plenty to talk about this week. Look, last week, different type of show. This week, I'm rocking the Good Vibes hat. And I haven't worn this hat in a while because now let's be honest, the vibes weren't that great when it came to our New York Mets. But a lot can change in a week. As I put in the description, a lot can change in 7 days. And a lot did change for this team. And we're going to talk about it this entire episode. I'm going to have plenty of conversation with each and every one of you in the chat. And also, even though I am solo this week, meaning I don't have my partner, John Saponaro, who is out on assignment. Our friend is over in Germany. I think he's traveling. He's in the air right now. So if you're on Twitter, be careful, because if he finds you, he will say something. But I do have a guest with me this week. It happened late. We thought we were going to get something going. We weren't sure. I got a notification telling me a little bit earlier before saying I made some arrangements. I'm coming on today. We will bring that person on shortly. But the week that was, and like I was just saying, a lot can change in a week's time, even if it is powered, or so some think powered, by a giant purple blob. We will talk all about Grimace, the Grimace Mets, whatever you want to call them. I'm rocking some purple today as well. We will talk all about it. And I can't wait to bring on my guest this week, or I'm going to call my co-host, really, for this week, more so than a guest. I'm going to call my co-host this week. But let me get into the chat real quick because it's filling up. 60 people here so far, and I see a lot of good comments coming in. Of course, as always, shout out to Darren Rivera, who's always supporting us in the chat. He's letting everyone know that he's shouting everyone else in the chat as well. Thank you for your continued support, Darren. Love you. Charlie, I see that you're in here. Good to see you as always. Brad, saying let's get hyped. Yes, Mets fans, you should be hyped. You should be having fun. Okay? I saw on Twitter two people are complaining about Grimace. Get lost. Have fun. Stop being a dork. We got, who else do we got in here? Like I said, Brad, we got Charlie, we got Armand, who's singing the Joe Hendry song over here. I'm not going to lie, Armand, I thought about making a graphic that was me singing like Joe Hendry, but I was going to obviously replace Joe Hendry with Grimace. And that, of course, is going to go over a lot of people's heads, unless you're a wrestling fan. But I did think about doing that on my run this morning. So I'm glad to see, Armand, that we are on the same page there. Baseball and Barbecue is here. Shay is here. Good to see you as well, my brother. Rosie's here. We got someone named D. What's up, D? Welcome to the chat. But as always, it's good to see everyone in here. JD's here. We're going to have as much fun as we can. And because I have a co-host this week, it's going to be easier for me to star off some comments and keep up with the chat better than I normally do when it comes to being solo. But with all that being said, our New York Mets are riding high, and I'm going to bring in someone real quick for the duration of the show. Not a segment. He's here for the show. And we're going to talk about the 7-game win streak. We're going to talk about Grimace. We're going to talk about all these things. But I got to bring him in right now. And I'm not even going to say his name. I'm going to let him introduce himself and all of his things that he is attached to. And I wish he did it more. And you keep posting these things, my friend, and I will keep watching them. The Mets trucker himself, Mr. Tone from Queens. Tone, it's been a long time coming. Welcome, my brother, to Till Mets Do Us Part.
Thank you for having me. It's only been a year of me begging to get on this show.
Don't put it like that.
Begging, pleading, and just no, you're not Terry Collins, or we can't have you on. It's all right, I'm here. That's what matters. The boys are here. Wish Johnny was here too.
But obviously, look, I'm pumped up that you're here. It's always good conversation when it's the two of us, whether we're just shooting the shit through DMs or on Twitter itself. Look, I can admit that the month of May nearly broke me as a fan because of it was piss poor play. It wasn't good baseball. And I had been saying that I understood at the start of the season that this was going to be a roller coaster type of season because that's the way the team was built. There was going to be ups, there was going to be downs. But to that point, I felt that a lot of the downs were more than I thought they would be. And the fundamental baseball was kind of lacking. It took them some time. And we both agree that, baseball is a marathon. Things take time. Things take time to develop. And this team, since a couple of changes have been made, mostly the lineup, the confidence from our manager as well, a lot of things are permeating throughout this clubhouse, and it's showing because this team is riding high right now, winning 7 straight. And we could talk about the jokes and all that when it comes to Grimace and stuff, but this team is riding high. And I want to say something right now when it comes to this because I want to see if you felt the same way. Watching that game last night, and this was the first time really this year for me, watching that game last night, and really in a while, I felt as though when they were down 6-2, that was the first time I sat on my couch and I sat up straight, and then I said, they got this. Like, that was the first time I said that in a while, and it felt really good to say. And then watching the game, seeing everything developed and chipping away, and then they tied the game, and then they win the game. So the fact that I was able to sit there and say, I'm feeling pretty good, and they were down 6-2. And you saw that moment with Sevy where he was like, no. Let me go back out there. Let me go back out. They let him go back out. He finishes out. Look, didn't have his best stuff. It's okay. Got through, what was it, 6 or 7? What I think it was 6. Does his thing, okay? And they come back, they fight, and they get the win. But to sit there and say, I feel good when they're down 6-2 from what we saw for the previous month, that's a giant leap forward. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so I agree with that. So if anybody's ever seen me talk on Twitter or anything, I'm one of the most positive, optimistic guys you'll find about the Mets, no matter what. And May, I felt broken for the first time this season as a Mets fan. I thought we were done. There was times where I was just like, but then they showed flash. I was like, well, it was just about putting it together. For me, the whole month of May there was something missing. It was, and what was missing was it to come together for 9 innings, not just 8 innings. Because as we all know, one day it was pitching, the next day it was hitting. When it was hitting, there was no bullpen. When it was pitching, there was no, it was just a cycle. And to me, bad teams lose in every aspect of the game. I think when it came to the Mets, this team was struggling to find its identity and how they were going to approach it. And I felt like the lineup change showed that they acknowledged that something was stale, that something was wrong, because we weren't hitting. And of course, when we start hitting, that's when the bullpen falters, and then heads roll from there, and they're trying to figure it out. But as far as that game last night, it's the first time when for me, to be honest with you, it was the London game against Philly. Something, because we were coming off the sweep against Washington. I was like, nah, they're gonna do something right here. Like something has to break the right way. But last night it was just indicative of just how much further it's come along because they keep winning. And the thing about it is, I think last night was the first time they really had to battle back. It feels like in some time, from that deep in the hole, and that's saying a lot. So I truly believe that this is what this team's identity is, and it does remind me. Last night reminded me a lot of 22 as far as like guys just making contact. For next guy up, next guy up, next guy up. And somebody saw in a comment earlier when I was looking, which was actually pretty funny, was that Lindor and Martinez, the two hottest hitters for the Mets, went 0 for 9 yesterday, and the Mets still put up 7 runs. Yeah. So that just goes to show you what this lineup is really doing. But it's been exciting for a guy who's been trying to find positive in a lot of ways and been catching flack for a lot of the positive that I find. It is finally nice to see it actually come to fruition. And I know it's going to balance out. It's going to level out. But my hope is that when it levels out, we level out at that 83, 84 win team. We don't bottom out back to what we were before because it's been a season of extremes. So there has to be a middle somewhere.
I would agree 1,000%. And obviously, when it comes to Alvarez, we know that, what was the numbers that came out? 18-1, or just when he's on the field, this team is better. And even if he's not hitting, and granted, last night he had a great game at the Dish. We're still waiting for the power to come back a little bit more, but I don't care. Like when I see him catching a game, when I see him stealing strikes, those things matter. The pitching has been better since he's come back. It plays big. And another thing I wanted to mention was simply something that I've been hammering home on this show since the start of the year. And I've been saying that what's going to help transform this team to be better, whether it's during this, what many call a transition year, or moving forward, was the youth of this team was what is going to change things. When you allow the youth to be a big part of it and allow them to show out and show enthusiasm and really just be upfront, I thought that it was going to help change the feel from what 23 was, which just felt very old and lackadaisical. And you're seeing that in full spades, right now, because obviously they're red hot, but really over the last, handful of weeks, whether it's with Alvarez coming back during the stretch, when Vientos was red hot, when he was providing what he was at third base. Yes, Vientos. Yes, we could talk about Vientos, your guy. I know. But, when it comes to those things, I really think that when you have that youthful exuberance on a team, we've seen it in baseball that last handful of years, and even what's going on in the American League right now. You look at these teams that have young players that are playing well. The teams themselves are taking steps forward, or they're playing better. I've talked ad nauseum last year about Arizona and Cincinnati and Baltimore and all these teams that have young players showing out. Now some of our guys are starting to mix in and be a part of it. And obviously it helps when you have a strong veteran presence like we do as well to help them along. But I think the youth really showing out is what's going to help this team moving forward.
Yeah, and the one thing that keeps popping in my mind, seeing Vientos and Alvarez do what they're doing, is, man, what if Mauricio was healthy? That's the one thing that just plays in my mind. Like, wow, this could have been. But then again, play devil's advocate. If Mauricio is healthy, do we ever see Vientos do what he's doing?
Exactly.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's always multiple ways to see things. But I agree. Them having the youth. We saw a little bit of Christian Scott. We see guys in the minors like Sproat, Tidwell, kind of flying up the ranks because they do want to push it. But them giving a legit shot to Alvarez, or it's his job pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And imagine if we had him, if he never got hurt. But it just goes to show you. It goes to show you that although baseball is a team game, and there's 9 guys on the field, 26 guys in the clubhouse. Sometimes one guy could be the glue that puts it all together, And what I see with Alvarez is that's a guy that you lock up. That's a guy that at the end of the season you have to be like, yo, how can we buy your Arbias and figure out how to keep you? You know what I mean? Pay you a little bit extra for your services. And with Vientos, it's funny because I think I saw there was a stat. I'm trying to remember what it was. I saw it today about Jackson Chourio, Jackson Holiday, and there's another minor guy who got a contract to play with. They're all struggling.
Was it Cole Keith?
It might have been. It might have been.
Because he's struggling. I know he's struggling, yeah.
Yeah, but it was funny how like these highly touted prospects all got paid big money, get bumped up, and they can't hit. And here Vientos comes. Like I said, when it comes to Vientos, one thing I will say is that I've always sung his praises with his bat. I always said that giving him a consistent opportunity, he'll provide. His glove might not be what you want it to be, but at the end of the day, there's going to be you're going to have to trade off. You can't have all 9 guys with all great gloves and great bats. There has to be trade-offs. There has to be trade-offs at some place, at some position. You know what I mean? Like the one thing, you'll talk about later, for example, like Lindor, even when he was slumping, he still had an amazing glove, which saved a lot. You know what I mean? Alvarez, he was coming up for his bat. He wasn't coming up for his glove, but then his glove came and became a part of it, So look at Marte now. We thought Marte was a defense guy, but he's obviously not anymore. And he's here for his bat, essentially. So we're going to get the mixes and seeing the youth get the play time that they're getting has been ultra positive, super positive. And I'm really curious to see if once the deadline comes, if we're sitting in that wild card 2, wild card 3 spot, what do they do to balance the youth and the veterans? Because you can't trade off all the youth, because we do have a solid farm, in my opinion, from below what we always talk about. But how do we balance that out? How do you find the right mix and match and the right pieces? Or is it something, do you find a youthful arm who is available for prospects that they just don't want to pay? A guy in his early 20s, I can't think of the name off the top of my head. You add it to the mix for the next year for the Christian Scott, the Mike Bass, whatever the case may be. But it's been all positive with the kids and seeing. And it's not like they didn't give Beatty extended amount of try. And I'm not saying that.
No, they tried,
but they're really trying.
No,
they're really trying to figure something out with everybody. They even tried to keep both of them up. And Beatty's going to come back up as a second baseman eventually, in my opinion. I think it's just a matter of time. They're just trying to figure out what to do with McNeil. So Beatty's going to get that opportunity again. So this team is trying to find a balance of how do we win with what our core, and how do we find the youth within the core to do everything. But I'm been as up and down as this season's been. As a Mets fan, I expected it to be up and down. I predicted 84 wins. You see that anywhere I ever said anything, I think it's starting to shape out to be that way. And then probably maybe a piece away of solid bullpen arm or something like that. But I'm excited about the youth.
Absolutely. I want to bring up some of the comments that are coming in when it comes to singing the praises of Alvarez specifically. We got Rosie K coming here saying how veteran players singing Alvarez's praises, it speaks volumes. I agree 100% on that. We also have Charlie coming in saying for such a young player, Alvarez is a true presence on the field. Everyone seems to be better around him right now. Agreed 1000%. Junior Swingman coming in saying Alvarez is the heart and soul of the team. Look, we're going to talk about Grimace and the Grimace Mets in a second, but I think there's a game difference really when it came to Alvarez being back and the whole Grimace first pitch, everything going with that. But those two things are pretty much tied to the hip when you really look at it. So did Grimace change the Mets, or did Francisco Alvarez provide that spark that everyone figured he would provide once he got back on the field? And then finally, Mr. Nobody hammering home the fact that Grimace is Alvarez. So please keep those comments coming in. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button on the video. Subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. We are trying our best to hit 800 subscribers. I am on my way to getting a signed piece of memorabilia to do as a giveaway for the channel. So stay tuned for that. I think people are really, really going to like this piece. And once we hit 800, I'm going to get that going, and then we'll attach some rules to it and such. But I think people are really going to enjoy it. But again, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and do all those cool things. Would really, really appreciate that. Let me just pull down this comment. But Grimace, we got to talk about Grimace. And when I say talk about Grimace, we can talk about the fact that the team is undefeated since he threw out the first pitch. We can talk about it, how he's a big purple blob. It was his 53rd birthday. Booting Mr. Met, Mr. Steal Your Girl, going after Mrs. Met. That's, shout out to Keith and the space that he had this afternoon. I don't want to take credit on that one. That was it might have been Edge who said that one. But shout out to them and all the great work that they do when it comes to those spaces. But I thought that was a good line. But really what I want to talk about when it comes to the Grimace era, if you will. The Grimace era is this overall offense. And when you look at this offense, I can't believe I actually made this today. You look at this offense, you got 7 games with 63 hits, 13 home runs, 50 RBIs with an 878 OPS. Look, if there's one thing that I can say that I stayed consistent on when it came to the start of the year, and I know you have as well, Tone, is I said, based off of my bold predictions, I was very, very high on the top 5 when it came to this lineup in terms of overall offense. The numbers that I put out there, the predictions that I put out there when it came to Nimmo, Alvarez, total team home runs, like I was very high on what I thought this team could do. It took a long time for them to wake up, and it was very frustrating, which is why I gave a lot of Mets fans this idea that, oh my God, we're going through 23 all over again. We're not going to figure it out. And now we're starting to see over these last couple of weeks, this team's really waking up, especially during this 7-game win streak. But looking at those numbers, God damn, man, like I'm feeling great seeing these guys go up there with confidence. And look, we're going to talk in the second half about Lindor's numbers and JD Martinez's numbers, specifically. But just seeing those guys doing what they're doing, how the rest of the offense is just flowing through, it's awesome to watch. It's good baseball finally.
Amazing baseball. Oppo Popos happening all over the place. Just shout out to guys playing baseball and not just exit delos and pull hitting.
Careful, anyway. Carson's not here yet. He'll show up some point. He'll show up at some point.
Hopefully he replays. Somebody leave a comment, say Tone's talking shit about you. So I just want to say this on the Grimace thing. The Mets offense has been coming alive since they played the Miami Marlins and Lindor got switched to the number 1 spot, right? Mm-hmm. The Mets offense started to adjust and hit around each other. It wasn't all the way there. Nimmo wasn't hitting the way he was hitting Alonso, but there was bits and pieces that were doing it right. This offense, little by little, has been picking up. Boom, we got out that way. We have rally caps. We have people doing a wave. We have goats in the outfield, the roof, Bambino curse, Black Cats, Rally Monkeys in Anaheim when they went in the World Series. If we want to have Grimace as our rallying cry over this crazy season, let us have Grimace. Sal Licata, all you other wild people out there. Oh, it's not Grimace. It's not this. Listen, we know it's not a freaking mascot. We know it's not a mascot that's winning games. We know it's the Mets that are playing Mets baseball that are winning games. We understand that. We're cognizant of that. We're not slow folks, man. We do. At the end of the day, it's something where we could look back on. Let's say the Mets do make a deep run in the playoffs. It's something we could go back on and say, remember that Grimace season where Grimace threw out a pitch? And because when people think, and somebody brought up a good point. Like some Knicks fans to this day, and I'm not a Knicks fan, you talks about the Linsanity era, the Linsanity run that they had, because that's something that pops in their mind. So if we want to hold on to Grimace, don't come at us for having fun, because baseball is about fun. Sports are about fun. If you want to be grumpy, don't want to see any celebration, don't want to see nothing, go to a single A baseball game and just go hang out over there. Don't do it with us, man. We work hard enough lives. We have jobs, kids, and all that. We talk this because we love it, because we want to have a good time. So Grimace, I will say here until Mets do us part. If we make the playoffs, I will get a Grimace tattoo. I don't care. I'm getting Grimace tattoo.
Clipping that.
I have space. I have space on my leg. It's there on my rib. I don't care. Let us make the playoffs and make some. Well, just the playoffs. I won't even say make noise, but let's make the playoffs and I'm in.
Yeah.
But this offense has been finding its stride. And like I mentioned a stat earlier, last night, the two hottest guys went 0 for 9, and the other guys picked them up. And that's what a baseball team does. Mark Vientos went into a nice little slump against the Padres, came out, gave us a 1-0 with a homer. That's a guy who didn't let the slump get into his head, and he picked himself right back up. And you know why guys do that? Because the team around them keeps picking each other up. And that's when it becomes a clubhouse. That's when the vibes are immaculate. That's when, as these young whippersnappers say, the aura is in the air. You know what I mean? So shout out to Grimace. Shout out to the lineup change. I know some people call them the gay Mets, because this also happened. This is happening during the
gay
June
Mets.
swoon. I don't know if the gay Mets. I don't know if anybody realizes, but this is the month of horror for Mets fans. We're in June. We're deep into June. We're not supposed to be seeing this type of baseball. This was supposed to be it.
This is usually when the season turns and things get worse.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm all for the Grimace Mets. All for whatever Mets. Grimace tattoo. We make the playoffs. You heard it here first. Get in one. Don't care.
It's I wasn't really scrolling Twitter today too much, but I did see, of course, that my partner, John Saponaro, if you're not following him, make sure you're following him on Twitter. It's always it's a fun time watching the people that he mixes it up with. But I saw that he was, quote tweeting some stuff and putting some stuff out there with some people that are just anti-Grimace and complaining about it, or, bitching and moaning about just the fun aspect of baseball. I really think that people need to understand that not everything has to be serious. I understand wanting a serious team. And when I say serious, I think when people normally say serious, they mean they want a good, well-respected team. So the idea of having, oh my God, you got Grimace, and it's all about this McDonald's mascot. It's not even your own mascot. But it's like, no. It's everything that Tone just said. It's about having fun. It's about latching on to something. And look, it's not even the players that are latching onto it. You saw the interview with Nimmo, and he laughed about it. It's like, whatever it is, whatever people want to latch onto and go with and think that that's part of it, like whatever. We're having a good time here. We're feeling good, and we love where we are. And that's what it's all about. Like, we should not be worrying about, how it looks overall, or trying to just sap the fun from a game that is meant to be played when you're a child. You get to play a kid's game for your life if you're fortunate enough. You get to root for a team playing, like I said, a kid's game. It's about having fun. And, that's something that I always preach. And I'm not here to talk about my coaching when it comes to kids with baseball, but that's same thing I teach my middle schoolers as well. It's about, look, we're here to have fun. You guys want to wear whatever you want to wear, you change your sleeves, whatever, like wear your socks, like whatever. We're here to have a good time, and we're going to learn the game along the way. Just respect the game. That's the main thing I always push when it comes to an overall message. And that's the same thing here. Like, everyone's having fun. It's meant to be a good time. So
is that you, man?
That's me. Can you still hear me?
I hear you, yeah.
Oh, you can still hear me. Good. Of course, something happens when. There we go. But might be the heat doing that. Very hot over here in Jersey. Very hot. But yeah, just have fun. That's the main thing here. And that was like the main thing I put on my notes too. I was just like, Grimace, fun. Like, that's what this is about. And the fact that people are complaining about it, it's just really stupid.
And I just want to add this, it's weird. I find it fascinating and weird, because the loudest voices are the ones who seem to complain about every single thing that happens. The Mets are on a 7-game win streak. Yeah, and you're big, and somehow you're managing to complain about a McDonald's mascot that we're joking about, as that's what you want to focus on. Like, and I had a comment said to me, you can't tell a fan how to fan. It's not about that. It's about, if you don't like it, don't watch. Don't
exactly.
Don't try and poop on a parade, because it's 162 games and we want to have fun while doing it. And I don't know if you've seen all the coverage that this whole Grimace everything has been getting. It's on ESPN, Talking Baseball, all these podcasts, all
nonstop memes, like everything. Yeah.
it's a good time. It's something to talk about. Like, what would you rather do? Joke about a Grimace era, or talk about how the Mets blew uh, a ninth inning game for the 20th time
I
in a row?
am
Like,
I am beyond thankful that this Grimace thing happened because I had been saying to John, I was like, look, dude, like I love doing the show, but I feel like the last 3 weeks have been very repetitive because there wasn't that much to talk about. We were like harping on the same things and everything. Everyone's talking, like everyone has their shows, and I watch everyone's stuff and I love everyone. And it's like we're all talking about the same thing. Like we need something new to happen to like change up the thought process a little bit. And this happens, and that's a great thing. And I got Rosie King with the perfect comment right here, saying it's the first time we've had fun as fans in a minute. This has been a blast. It's like, yeah, like we've been like May was awful, god awful. It was if not a exactly mirror image of what happened in June of last year when everything just completely spiraled. And now this team picks themselves up and they're playing better baseball. This is a good thing. There's no reason to nitpick stupid things to try and tear people down or whatever it is. It's like watch the fucking games. Have fun while doing it. If people are cheering on a giant purple blob, let them do it. You want to drink a Grimace shake? Go ahead. Go do it. And I must say, because I just said a Grimace shake, I have to apologize to someone. Rael, I don't know if I haven't seen you in the chat yet, but I know you're probably listening. And if you're watching on Twitter, I apologize because she wanted me to get a Grimace shake and drink it during the show. I did not get one because the McDonald's down the street from me does not have it. So I apologize to you right now. I know I'm the worst. I'm terrible.
no, the McDonald's is anti-Mets.
Oh,
that
yes.
McDonald's also anti-Mets.
That McDonald's is anti-Mets. So I'm going to go to a different one now. Great, that's a lot.
But to be fair,
I'll find one.
You should have drove down to South Jersey if you had to find that shake. I'm just saying. It's for the people. It was a request for the people.
It was a request. I failed. I will try to get something done at some point and put it up on the page. But before we go into the break, I just want to talk real quick about the overall team vibes and the difference that we've seen when it comes to just overall sport. This is going to be a great segue because this will go into the break, and then we're going to talk about leadership and Lindor and JD and things like that. But when it comes to the team vibes, like I feel as though, and this goes beyond just the 7-game win streak and Grimace and all this nonsense. It's hearkening back to what you said about the changing of the lineup, that Marlin game, and how things really started to pick up. And you notice these things little by little as they were adding up. And you're seeing guys pick each other up more. You're seeing guys speak differently when it comes to the post games now. You're seeing smiling in the dugout. And yes, when you're winning and you're red hot, like those numbers I just showed you, yes, everyone's going to be all smiles. But in comparison to where this team was, getting to this point is the impressive thing, because when you're that down and it looks as though everyone's playing a game that they hate each other in, like it didn't feel like these guys liked each other. And I think this team now is 11-2, 10-2, or 11-2 since that photo was taken that everyone bitched about on the bus after that loss to Arizona. Was it Arizona? Yeah, Arizona. But this team is supporting each other. They're playing strong baseball. They're having fun, and everything is like I said. I'm more shocked that they were able to pull themselves out because of what I saw last year with a lot of the similar players. When June happened, things spiraled completely and they could not get up. They could not reach the 10 count, and that was it. The season was over in June, essentially. This happens in May. They pick themselves up. Now something has changed. In your opinion, where do you think, or is it a certain thing that happened? Is it a certain person? What do you think really could have been the catalyst to this overall change?
I want to say, and I know a lot of people point to this, but for me, truly, I think when they called up Iglesias,
okay,
and to plug him in at second base, I think it was just between DFA, Narvaez, Iglesias coming up, and Torrance getting traded for. That whole conglomerate of things for me. I think because the Mets all season have kind of been showing like, yo, we're trying to figure this out. We want to figure this out with what we have. We don't want to sell. We don't want to trade off. Like, we want to build off of something. But for some reason, when McNeil got taken out that lineup, and it's what I said earlier, is like how it's crazy what the power of one player could do, or one attitude change could do. There seemed to be something lifted off the lineup. And Iglesias went on a tear, for about 4 or 5 games before they had to put McNeil back in. And I just feel like that was the big moment of not only for the players, but not only for fans, but I think a message to the players saying, like, we don't care how much we pay you. Like, your job's really not that safe. Outside of Nemo, Lindor, and Alonso, because we saw Diaz lose his closer job. Granted, he went down to injuries, but we saw him lose his closer job. So I think the message has been constantly sent. It's like, yo, this is it. Like you're playing for your job, essentially. And I think the Iglesias thing and the Narvaez things kind of steamrolled that into their minds, where it was just like, you know what? I think it's time we just have fun, because it's either you lose your job and get traded to another team, not know where you're going after that, or you play your ass off for this team and see what happens.
I got a lot of comments that I start off that I'm going to read real quick, and then we'll go into the break and have some fun when it comes to sponsors. But Rosie K coming in saying that Stern seems to be pretty deft at making in-season adjustments. Epler didn't have that talent to do that. And, of course, the signing of Martinez. And then, of course, everyone's talking about the team meeting, which we'll talk about as well when it comes to leadership in the second half. But I want to bring them up regardless. Stephanie saying it was a team meeting, and JD Martinez. We got Jazz, Chisholme, everyone's favorite Met Marlin fan on Twitter, coming in saying that it's the meeting. Welcome, Jazz. I haven't seen you in a while in here, but welcome to the show. Douglas Barnes, the clubhouse had the same vibes as last year to start the season until JD Martinez. Okay. Then we got another one from Jazz saying the players started talking to each other more after games. Okay. And then, of course, I got to give the shout out because it's Yuki Matsui. Yuki Matsui saying Tone from Queens is right. So you got that right there. If you want to take a picture of that one, we can leave that one here. Tone from Queens was right. Look, I think that meeting did play a big part. I think what Tone was saying also plays a huge part when it comes to no job being safe and staying true to what the message has been this entire time. Because look, David Stearns has yet to lie to us, saying how, look, we believe that this team can win. We believe that this team can make a playoff run. That's seeing that this team is in a league that is very down this year. The NL is down. So seeing that and saying, look, we think we can compete. We're not scared to say that because we think the talent that we have. And when you look at the talent on paper, like, look, you got to play the games. When you look at the talent on paper, you can easily say, look, the Mets got a shot here. The Mets can do some damage because look at these other teams that are around them. They're better than this team. I think they're better than Pittsburgh. I think they're better than the Giants. Like, you can look at these guys and say, like, I think they can jump them. So it's those in-game adjustments that Rosie mentioned that he is very strong at doing. And it goes to show you that I don't care who you are. If you're not performing and it's not helping this team, we're going to find someone that can. And look, we're all waiting. We're all waiting for the aha moment, really, where it's like, okay, we're going to completely get rid of Jeff McNeil. That's probably not going to happen, but we're all waiting for that. But the fact that Iglesias is getting starts, he's got the start tonight. He's been playing a lot more. It shows that, look, we know you signed that contract, but that's not going to deter us from putting your ass on the bench if you're not performing. So seeing things like that, seeing how Mendy has been able to manage everything as well, very strong. Love the things that I saw last night with the Bochy mistake and then hopping right on things and bringing Tyrone in. Look, I have nothing but praise when it comes to Carlos Mendoza on this season so far. But we're going to go into the break, and when we come out, we're going to talk about Francisco Lindor. We're going to talk about JD Martinez. We're going to talk about all of them. Before we go anywhere, I want to make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, give us all the thumbs up. If you're over on the Twitter side, love you, appreciate you. Come on over to the YouTube side, join the chat, sub the channel, like the video, helps us in the algorithm and growing. which we are trying to do on our way towards 800 subscribers. Like I said before, we are near another giveaway. Everyone knows I love doing my giveaways. Some people in here have already won once when it comes to the giveaway. I got a really cool one that I think people are going to like, but we got to hit 800 first, and we'll eventually get there. But we're going to go into the break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some more Mets. It's only 30 seconds, and as always, shout out to Brella Sports for allowing us to do what we do. Back in 30, it's me, Matt Ibanez, a.k.a. Ibby, with my man, Tone from Queens, the Mets trucker himself. Back in 30. And just like that, we are back. Matt Ibanez here, a.k.a. Ibby, till Mets do us part. As always, live on a Wednesday, 5:30 start, 6:15 right now. Joined by my main man, the Mets trucker himself, Tone from Queens. We're having a great conversation. If it's your first time here, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Tone on Twitter. Follow my partner, John Saponaro, on Twitter, who I'm sure is fighting people on Twitter as we speak. Follow the show handle. We're all over at Till Mets Do Us Part, whether you want to follow us on Twitter or X or whatever. You want to follow us on Instagram. You want to follow us on TikTok. We're everywhere. Make sure you're following the channel and all things that is Till Mets Do Us Part. But having said that, before we can continue with our Mets conversation, Tone, I got to do some house cleaning. I got to snap my paper over here. I got to talk about independent safes. It's the thing I got to do because they're good friends of ours. And independent safes, as we all know, are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes, fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit independentsafes.com today for security that stands strong. And of course, anything that's over $99 is free when it comes to shipping, free shipping when it comes to that. So obviously, head on over to independentsafes.com. Tell them Till Mets Do Us Part sent you. They'll take care of you. And if you want to lock away the people that are complaining about Grimace, if you want to lock away Jeff McNeil, like I've been saying, lock it away, throw it in the river, do what you got to do. I'm all fine with that. But that's not all. We got a new read because it's the second half of June. We got a new read for our friends over at MANSCAPED. When it comes to MANSCAPED, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that smooth sack summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed from pubes to bum. That's right. Thanks to our friends over at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Get 20% off and free shipping when you use the code TMDUP at checkout over at manscaped.com. That's TMDUP. You can see it. It's been here the entire time. It's right next to Tone over there. Use our promo code. Get 20% off and free shipping. Anything that you want, they got it all. I got it all too. It's right here. We got the crop preserver. We got the lawnmower 5.0. We got the weed whacker 2.0. We got everything. It's all good stuff. It's all recommended. Give them a shout. Tell them Till Mets Do Us Part sent you. If you're a dick to me on Twitter, I'll still give you the code. Either way, makes me happy. That being said, Mets baseball. We're back to what we love to do. We're back to what we're here to do. Okay. So, again, shout out to everyone that's in the chat. Good to see everyone still talking. We got 188 people here. Once again, hit that like, smash that subscribe, do what you got to do to support the channel. Much love to everyone that's in the building. Now, leadership. For a long time, people have felt that this team lacked a leader, true leadership, someone to be up front, this and that, take charge, blah, 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 whatever you want to listen to. Okay. But I'm here to say I'm sick and tired of that because, and also I'm not going to sit here and talk about, putting the C on people's chest and this and that. Like those things, those are not meant to be contract ploys. Those are not meant to be just handed over. Like those things are earned over time or what have you. But for me, leadership during this time, and everyone mentioned the meeting before, everyone knows that I love Francisco Lindor. Everyone knows that you love Francisco Lindor, Tone. Everyone knows that my partner John loves Francisco Lindor. And we pump him up a lot on this show, even when he's down and didn't have the strong start that everyone thought that he would have, even though, as my friend and confidant over here has mentioned, as well as others, that he's always been a slow starter. Even when he was in Cleveland, he was always a slow starter, but the numbers eventually still get there. So when I have so much respect for this man from a leadership standpoint, and I think JD Martinez helped this as well. We'll talk about it. But this guy, and this is something that Mets fans really, this is why they piss me off so much. You have someone in Francisco Lindor that's been here for a handful of years now, that no matter what, good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. He is always in front of that camera. He is always saying what needs to be said. And look, you might not like it. Doesn't matter. I don't care if you like it or not. He is still in front of that camera, saying what needs to be said, speaking up for his team, saying where we are in the process, what have you. People complain that people coming to New York and playing for the Mets can't handle it. This is a guy that has this fucking team on his shoulders that not many people want to do. Many people have failed to do and have gotten shit on for and hated for no reason. But I am sick and tired of it, and I'm done engaging people over it too, because there's no sense. Because, like I said before, you can't fix stupid, and people are going to complain because people are looking at what he's done now, and they're still saying, "Yeah, well, he started off the season doing this." I don't fucking care, man. I don't care. It's helping pick us up now, all right. And he's providing at a ridiculous number. I think he's what? I think he's second in WAR. Since the move to leadoff or the month of June or whatever the numbers are. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I have his overall number since he went to leadoff. I'm going to bring those up in a minute. But this is a player that does everything and takes on the onus of being a leader and up front for a team that many don't want to do it for. And many people, especially during that downturn, were not in front of the camera. We're not even saying much. This guy was. He deserves all the flowers in the world. I know his wife put out something the other day. I can understand her frustration. I put out a tweet to her. I said, no matter what, respect you. That's our shortstop. Love the guy, always supporting, no matter what. I just think that, when we talk about leadership, I think it's definitely helped. And this is where I'm going to toss it to you, Tom. I think it's definitely helped with JD coming in, guy that's been there, guy that's, played in big markets, played on winning teams. Having someone like that next to you definitely goes a long way, especially when you had that team meeting. But I really think that Francisco Lindor has really transformed even more when it comes to being an overall leader for this team. And I think he deserves all the credit. To you, Tom.
Yeah, so well said. I will say this, like you alluded to, and anybody who's ever seen me on Twitter, I am one of the bigger Francisco Lindor fans. Not only because, as we like to say, the little male, he's one of my own, but I truly believe he is a top 3 shortstop in the game of baseball. I said this and I'll say it again because it's my first time on your show. If you go to Lindor's best season in Cleveland. There he goes. Go to Lindor's best season in Cleveland. I think it was the year he hit 38 home runs. I believe it was in 2018. This was before the
2018, yeah.
2019.
Yes.
Every single month of that season was up and down for Lindor because Lindor is who he is. He's a streaky hitter, right? But Mets fans are still like, he's so amazing. He's the best guy ever. You go to 2019, the Juice Ball, you check his stats. He was a streaky hitter. It's his DNA. It's who he is. When the Mets traded for him, every Met fan, oh my God, we had the best shortstop in the game. And he came in. It took him a second to adjust to New York. I do believe Javi Baez, regardless of your opinion on the thumbs down situation, helped Francisco Lindor settle into his role. And that's when Lindor started to kind of show up. And then you go forward from there, 2022, he had his best season. Last year, he was a 30 for 30 guy. And look, people want to nitpick on when and where it happens. I get it, meaningless. Okay, whatever. He's been in 23 and 21. He was a runner-up for Gold Glove both times. I think in 21 he had the most outs above average at +6, but still lost to Brandon Crawford, if I'm not mistaken. Last year was a toss-up between him and Swanson, but a lot of people, it could have went either way. It really could have. As far as people want to talk about the All-Star game, he's been robbed 2 years in a row, in my opinion. If anybody thinks anything else, you got to get checked out because I don't know what you're watching. But all Lindor has done has, as you stated, stepped up to the plate when the mics are in his face. He says, I got to be better. At the end of the day, let me tell you something. A guy can only say so much. When you're losing, when you're in a slump, you can only say, what else are you going to say besides, we're going to be better? I know this team has it. What are you going to say? This team fucking sucks. This is the worst team I ever played. You're going to pull a Jorge Lopez? Or like what are we doing here? But at the end of the day, he still steps in front. He doesn't skip out. He doesn't run out. We've heard about that in the past about other guys who get dressed, they run out. They don't want to be seen in front of cameras. No matter how good his English or whatever you think about him, he's always right there. And he produces. He produces when you need it. Yes, did he start was this year a slower start than average for his career? Sure, I would give you that. It was looking bad for about a month. It was like, wow, what is going on here? But at the end of the day, and this isn't to excuse him because getting paid what you get paid, I get it. You got to produce. But if you look at Corey Seager's numbers during that same span of time, Corey Seager had some of the worst offensive numbers in that same time span. Corey Seager gets paid similar to what Lindor gets paid. Trey Turner, although Trey Turner had a good start to his season, Trey Turner was gone due to injury for a good chunk of that season, for a good chunk of the season so recently. You know who's played every single day, even when he's had runs? Francisco Lindor. You know what I mean? Right. So at the end of the day, I don't know what more you can ask for leader. It's a guy, he gets up, he puts his shoes on, and he's ready to lead no matter what. We saw in the offseason what he did with Vientos. We seen when he was in the field with Beatty plenty of times in the field with Beatty. We seen him get upset when I think guys were stealing at an all-time clip, and we were in Tampa, and he got upset. He showed emotion for the first time in a long time. He slammed his glove on the ground, and it was like, yo, like, what are we doing? But it goes to show you because he tries to hold it together till he can't. So I will say this. Before the season, I wish I could pull it up. I could find it somewhere. If you know me, you know. I've always said Lindor should have been our leadoff hitter. Nemo should go back to 2 or 3. Lindor is best served as a leadoff. I've seen it when he played in WBC. Whether he was 2, he did his most damage. In Cleveland, he was a leadoff hitter. He did his most damage. Sometimes it's just about where you want to line up because you see different pitches. Your mindset's a little different. You're a little free at the plate. I can guarantee you, if anybody's ever played baseball, when you're batting number 1, you're free at the plate than when you're batting in the number 3 hole. You know what I mean? And sometimes that just allows you to be more yourself because in the number 3 hole, you don't have to worry about, well, I got to pull the ball with exit velocity and hit it this way because the guy's on base and I got to make sure. No, but when you're at number 1 and say, you know what? I'm just going to get on base. I'm going to swing my bat. I'm going to get on base. I'll make it happen. And he's done damage from the leadoff role. So going to, I know I'm rambling on a little bit, but going to the team meeting, I can guarantee you he was one of the more focal guys on that team. Because, once again, he's always been the face of the Mets since he's been here. Yes, we could talk about Brandon Nimmo all you want. Brandon Nimmo doesn't get shown every single night. Brandon Nimmo's not in front of a camera every single night. Pete Alonso is not in the camera every single night. Yeah, he's been faced with some tough questions. But the one guy they always go to is Francisco Lindor. So you're telling me that my man is playing elite defense, switch back to the number one role, has put this team on his back. Because this year, as you said, this year the Mets have up until yesterday, have lived and died with Lindor. I think the numbers are astonishing when he gets like a hit or two hits in a game of what it does for the game, no matter where he is in it. Even if he gets an RBI or not, like the numbers are astonishing. It's similar to like what Francisco Alvarez is doing when he's in a game behind the plate, But when your team lives and dies with a guy like that, that's a freaking superstar. That's a leader. And I'm glad to call him my shortstop. And I know that it sometimes can be harder than others. But look, at the end of the day, like I said, no matter how much you pay a guy, you could look at Mookie Betts. I know shortstop isn't his position. Mookie Betts, unfortunately, is hurt as well. Mookie Betts was a terrible shortstop. Terrible glove at shortstop. There's even been talks about why they moved him to shortstop. Great bat. Although he disappears in October, but great bat. But he's terrible at shortstop. Like I said, Trey Turner can't stay healthy. Corey Seager just till recently just started getting his offensive numbers up like Lindor, but we also saw the play. His glove isn't there neither. His glove is nowhere near Lindor. So while I understand frustrations because we want to talk about money that's not our money, and I just want to say this once again, Lindor only got paid $341 million because that's what the San Diego Padres dictated. Because the Padres took one of the worst defensive shortstops in Fernando Tatis Jr., gave him $340 million before he only played 80-something games that season.
Yep.
So it's only right that the best shortstop in the game at that time resets the market because that's how baseball works. That's how the players union works, and it will always work that way. So when people want to talk about money, whatever the case may be, throw that out the window. That was a San Diego Padres thing that ruined it for everybody else. It wasn't a New York Mets thing. This isn't about limiting him to contract. He's still a top 3 shortstop. But the leadership has been there to round it up, and I'm excited to see that he continues to grow in that role. He continues to get better. And you see what his wife says. There's been a lot of unjust threats, unjust hate, all that. He's not Jason Bay. People act like this guy's Jason Bay or Mo Vaughn. Like he's not that. What are we doing?
He's unfortunately he's unfortunately living. And I said this was going to happen. I didn't want to be right. I said he was going to live the Carlos Beltran life. And look, the money's different because of time, but at the time, Carlos Beltran, $127 million was a lot of money. And in comparison into today's money, maybe it's similar to what Lindor is now, but it's unfortunate that he's living that same life where people, it still pisses me off that Carlos Beltran doesn't get the respect he really deserves. And I feel like, again, same thing here. Francisco Lindor does not get the respect that he truly deserves. I did want to jump into the comments real quick before I continue the conversation because I want to give some shout outs to people. Mr. Nobody coming in saying that Lindor is a great player. We need other superstars to compliment him. Pete and Lindor shouldn't have to worry about the entire burden. That's a point that John was making last week. So if John was here, we definitely agree with you on that. And yeah, look, you should have, it's good to have, more, better players within your lineup. I agree with that 100%. Shay coming in saying, Corey Seager's throw on that double play yesterday to give us a run. I mean, that was a turning point. And we're talking about defense and players' worth and things of that nature. I think he's also giving a shout out to Keith here, saying that Keith was right on that one. And we love Keith here. We love Shay and Sons. We got to get Keith on the program. He's always a busy man, but I got to get him on the show as well. And then Shay giving Tone his flowers and saying that Tone speaking nothing but facts. They agree 100% with everything. So I'm happy that the people are enjoying Tone being here on the show. Like I said,
I just want to say something, throw it out there because it's insane that I'm getting love. So once upon a time, Keith had invited. I got to be on Keith's show, which was fun because we were talking about Josh Saints. And this was when the Mets went in the midst of being kind of doo-doo. And I said, this team is better than the Diamondbacks team of last year. Watch out. I said it, and I caught so much flack. It was insane. So I'm just glad that this week, I hope my time on, I just have some fans not fans. I have some watchers kind of in my corners.
No, you got
Nice.
fans. You got
It's nice not to be crazy for once. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
always love it. Always love it. But the one thing I did want to bring up when it came to Lindor, that we can move on to JD Martinez. But when it came to Lindor, to the point you were making about showing that emotion, I am happy that he is showing more emotion. Like when he made that play at shortstop, that crazy play, and then he really like opened up and like let out a scream to the people in the crowd. Like, I'm happy that he's showing a lot more emotion now, because that shows me that he's becoming even more comfortable with who he should really be. Like, I want to see those types of things. I think sometimes, and this isn't just him, this is a lot of players that come to New York. They think that they have to be this straight-laced, buttoned up, and you gotta stand in front of the camera and talk like this the entire time and do this. Like, it doesn't have to be that way, but I feel like everyone thinks it always is that way, and they continue to say, oh, this is the right way. This is the New York way. It's like, no, like, show your emotion, go about your business, be honest. I think those are really the biggest things, and I'm glad ever since this meeting and things have changed with this overall vibe for this team. Like, seeing it from him, seeing it from JD, seeing other people step up to the plate now, in terms of speaking with media and saying things. And it's not as monotonous anymore. It's not, as, change the channel type of answers that we had been getting. It's a little bit more personality. It's a little bit more, again, honest. But to the point you made before, which is very true, there's only so much you can say when things are going wrong. There's only so much you can say, when asked the same question over and over again. But I'm just happy that we're starting to see a little bit more personality pour out, be it behind the microphone or, on the field itself. But JD Martinez, people are talking about, we mentioned him before, leadership. I think it has to be said that, number one, it took us some time to get revved up. And I had said that weeks ago, when the thing that stood out to me the most on a write-up by Will Salmon in The Athletic, I read it, and they were talking about when JD was initially starting to ramp up in the beginning of the season. And he said, how's it going? Like, how are things coming along? And he said, look, I'm not going to lie, it's going a little bit slower than I want it to, because there's no velocity. And he was talking about, when you're playing and getting revved up at AAA, like, you're not getting what you normally get at the major league level. So it was hard when it came to timing. It was hard to, with mechanics and things of that nature. So when you see him not, doing what JD Martinez normally does at the start, you're like, oh my God, this guy's washed. This is what happens. He comes to the Mets. He stinks. He doesn't hit any homers and blah, 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 blah. When really it was just some time that we often talk about on here, and you talk about as well. A phrase that I'm trying to get over: patience over panic. Patience over panic. It's a big thing. But just taking the time there, and he never wavered. He stayed doing what JD Martinez does: studying, moving forward, and figuring things out. And I'm going to bring up his numbers right now, because these are a day late, or sorry, I don't have his numbers from last night because he didn't do so hot. But these are the numbers essentially from the Player of the Week honors that he got. So the man on fire, 450 average, 1,643 OPS, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, really helped transform the lineup during that week. And he's obviously been a huge part of the 7-game win streak. And we had been saying for years, when a player like that can come into this lineup, Mets fans have wanted JD for a handful of years now, back to 2022. When you add someone like that to this lineup, it lightens the burden, to the point that was made before by Mr. Nobody, lightening the burden on other players. Having someone like that in there, coupled with the fact that he's a professional, he's not some dick that's rolling out there and just, is causing trouble or causing a stir in the club. It's like, no, this is a guy that carries, goes about his business, is a professional hitter, helps everybody. Everyone picks his brain. Having that goes a long way. And I think that couples in with that leadership, because you have someone there that can provide those types of numbers at the age of 36. still a machine at the plate when he can do those things, but on top of it, can also help players like a Lindor, like a Nimmo, like a Pete, whether it's in the batter's box or, hey, these are the things that are going on. Maybe we should try this. And I get it. I get why in the beginning that can be tough, because when you come into a new place, you don't want to step on toes. Like, this is their, like, there's veterans here. Like, I'm not going to come in and like assert myself and be like, I'm the leader, this and that. It's like, you wait your time. People want to listen, they'll listen. And then you go from there. And I think that people are listening. And I think that his message is getting across, and it's helping others grow even more.
Yeah, so the one thing that sticks in my mind when I think about JD Martinez was, I don't know if you remember the week they signed him, and they had all the cameras in Mark Vientos' face because Mark Vientos was the active DH. And there was a picture or a little clip of him being side by side with his arm around Vientos, kind of talking to him.
Yes, I remember that.
I can guarantee you that part of whatever conversation they had was like, it's going to be your time. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm here for you. Although right now it seems like I'm here to take your spot. I'm here for you. This is your position. You know, this is your team. You're going to be up here. I'm just here in the meanwhile. And I paraphrasing is probably something he would say because he was that type of energy to kind of like go to the guy you're replacing.
I'm sorry. To go to the guy that my headphones died. To go to the guy that you're replacing, or kind of sending back down to the minors who had all the hope in the world to come back up. It's nice to. It just shows who you are as a character. It shows who you are as a person. It's a guy who, when he came in, he spoke about the dimensions of Citi Field. That's a knowledgeable guy. That's a guy that you want around your team because he knows the art of hitting. You know what I mean? So he's done nothing but lead, and I knew it was going to take time. He didn't see any spring training, and while yes, it did hurt. As much time as it took, then the back injury kind of set him back. It was like, oh, here we go, like typical Mets. But all he's done is step up. And the one thing that we all said, and I don't care how pessimistic you are as a Mets fan, when the season started, before the season started, every single Mets fan out here said, wow, what would make this lineup really go if we sign JD Martinez? What make this lineup complete is if we sign JD Martinez. So we finally signed JD Martinez. So Stearns gave us what we wanted to complete the lineup because we thought that would have completed the lineup. So now I feel like we're seeing that benefit of what happens when JD Martinez is on his horse and really doing it, because he's carried this team along with him. And now what it does, I think with Martinez finally having his bat, with Lindor finally having his bat, what it does is it allows Alonso to kind of breathe a little easier, because Alonso's starting to heat up again. Mm-hmm. Because now there's no burden. Like, the one thing I realized about Alonso, and it really annoys me, is that when everybody's struggling, he can't seem to figure it. I don't know. It's like a mental block, or because he feels like he has to press too hard. Mm-hmm. He has to swing at everything. He just has to get on base, and he struggles. Nimmo's kind of been the same way, where he's just been striking out at a higher clip than usual because it is what it is. So JD Martinez has alleviated a lot of that, and you realize a lot of this lineup success has come around the full lineup success, not just part of it when Lindor is playing with which is usually the bottom order, but the full lineup has started coming out once JD started hitting, and I think that's a testament of how powerful that guy is. And the one thing I'll say is that, once again, it's about finding the best mixture of guys that you could find. I don't think it's necessarily a superstar. I don't think it's necessarily finding a stud somewhere. I think it's finding the right mixture of guys who could feed off of each other, guys who can eat, with each other in the same place, because that's how teams go. Because we've seen the superstars in the Los Angeles Dodgers for how long? All they have is that one ring in 2020 to show for it. And all they've done is sign superstar. That's all. What they did with Shohei, Teoscar, and Yamamoto this year is nothing new. The Dodgers have been doing that since they got the new ownership with Magic and company. But they haven't. It's not. It's we saw the Mets try the superstar thing. Granted, on the older side of things, but it's about finding the right mixture of guys. You find the right vets. You find the right youth. You know what I mean? So, but JD Martinez has been a godsend, and I hope that his back continues because the lineup will just keep continuing. Because you also, when a guy, I think for JD Martinez also as a player, it's easier to give tips. It's easier to kind of mentor somebody when you're on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you're sitting here struggling, if you're sitting here, you can't hit a lick. It's kind of hard to say, let me help you out, because you're kind of in your own head trying to figure out your own game. But once you're driving guys in, then you turn around and say, you know what? Yes, what comes in next? You know what, Alonso? Let's have a conversation about what you're doing wrong, and let me help you out. Maybe one day J.D. Martinez is going to turn into some great hitting coach, a hitting guru, because he's an amazing hitter. And I know, one Mr. Carson hates it, but the man hits to all fields. He hits to all fields. We saw the opposite homer he hit the other day. He hits to all fields, and he just goes with the ball. And whenever I preach about exit velo or against, it's not always analytics, because I point to JD Martinez as it's not always about analytics, because JD Martinez, his approach at the plate isn't an analytically driven approach. It is, I'm going to go with the ball wherever the ball takes me, pretty much. If it comes inside, I'm going to drive it inside out.
Mm.
You know what I mean? If it's a chance for me to pull it, I'm going to pull it.
Mm.
And that is what you call a timeless hitter that will survive in any era. And I'm so glad to see this man in the Mets uniform, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like I said, it's us as Mets fans have been waiting a long time for a player like that, specifically him, because I think everyone wanted him in 22. They wanted him to be the guy at the start and at the deadline, and it didn't happen. So people have been really wanting him. And the fact that he's finally here, granted he was a little bit older, people were a little, weary on the fact of his age, but the guy is a hitter. He doesn't have to play in the field. Do your job. And that's what he's doing. And he's providing so much. And I guarantee you, there's things that we don't even know about, but you can see the changes have definitely been slowly but surely happening. And I think he's definitely at the front of it as well. Like I said, helping the likes of a Lindor, helping the likes of Nimmo and Alonso and what have you. And the great thing about this is when you have a run, a 7-game win streak like this, playing the way you do it, at the clip that you're playing it, like those stats that I brought up before, those ridiculous numbers. When you're doing that and the clubhouse has rediscovered itself and you're feeding off each other and you're smiling more and you're picking each other up, it almost makes it feel like I don't want to say it's impossible, but it makes it feel as though if this team goes the route of May again, I feel as though it's a lot easier to find what the problem is then. Because you got out of it, you fixed it, and then if something goes wrong again, you could probably say, okay, what was consistent between then and now? I think it really, when you have that moment of being able to, rediscover, like I said, pick yourselves up from where you were, which I think they're going to be able to do. I did not. They pick themselves up and be able to do it. If they fall back again, I think it's going to be a lot easier to say, okay, I know what the problem is now. I know what I have to remove. I know what I have to add, and that helps the team moving forward. But regardless, I'm just ecstatic that we got to have an episode today that did not involve trade talk, that did not involve selling or buying or the C word. And when I say the C word, I mean core. I don't want to just leave it at that, but core. I'm tired of saying that word, but I know it's going to be a talking point regardless until the deadline at least, but not today, not needed. Fantastic conversation with our boy Tone from Queens, the Mets trucker. One more thing I got to bring up because I love doing my on the farm segments and I love bringing up my little logo. When it comes to being on the farm, look, for the most part, everything is thriving when it comes to our New York Mets from an offensive perspective. But I'm not that big of a fan of Jeff McNeil and not a big fan of what I've been seeing. I love what I've been seeing from Jose Iglesias, though, but there are some things happening down on the farm. Tone mentioned that Brett Beatty has been playing second base more times than not, and we'll see if that ends up becoming something in the second half. We will find out. But there is someone that is playing second base, as well as some shortstop and some center field, but second base. And he's doing a pretty good job. You know him, I know him, Mets fans know him. Luis Angel Acuna, his last 24 games, he's got a 310, 369, 440 split with an 809 OPS, 5 doubles, 1 triple, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, and 9 stolen bags. Look, those numbers aren't going to blow you away, not in today's baseball. No power, lack of RBIs, blah, 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 whatever. I look at that and I say, I hope that he keeps playing strong down there so he can eventually get a shot up here to just provide, you know, you want to call it a spark, you want to call it a better defender at second base, you want to add some speed to the bottom of the lineup. I think those things would be pretty cool to have. We'll see. And I have full trust in David Stearns and how he goes about these things. I still want to see Christian Scott up, but I'm not going to fight you, David. I'm not going to fight you on that, but I do want to see Christian Scott back up, not wasting those bullets down low. But, you know, it's good to see Angel Acuna, you know, getting into a little bit of a groove because he started off really slow, and seeing that now, hopefully that can provide him with a chance, and we'll see if it happens, with a chance to be up here at some point in the second half. Are you a fan of that idea, Tone? Or are you against? Are you a big Jeff McNeil truther?
Love my boy Squirrel. Love that fucking guy. Nah, never. Wish they would get rid of him. As sad as that seems. Especially after I'm not even gonna get into it. But what I will say as far as I do think Brett Beatty gets the first crack at second base to see how they do with him. Also, I think it depends on what Iglesias does. You know, I think the more that McNeil falters, the more Iglesias should get the role. And I'm not sure that we might. I don't think we'll see Acuna. I really don't, because one thing I remember when we went to I went to, what was it? Stearns did the Q&A for the season ticket holders. When Acuna was brought up, he was like, he needs to show consistency in the strike zone. Yes, he's been apparently. So he said he didn't like his pitch selection. He felt like he swung at everything and all that good stuff. So while yes, he's heating up and doing the right things, I think he's going to need a full season of doing it, and then next year we'll see a big showdown at second base. Like the one reason I say I don't think McNeil is with this team past All-Star break is because Mauricio, Beatty, and Acuna all going to be second and third base candidates. And I think if you find a vet to kind of, you know, be that utility guy, there's going to be a big battle for those positions. And I think those positions are going to be open for those guys. But I really think that they're going to keep Acuna down for, unless, you know, God forbid, unless
something
they're
happens.
Yeah. You know, but, and can I just say this real quick? I don't know if I'm allowed to kind of, because McNeil gets it. For any fan, I say this as a PSA, we're in the luxury tax. I'm in the luxury tax bracket, meaning whatever draft pick you think we're going to get, it's lower than that because of luxury bracket. We lose international money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we lose international money. There's not much to do. And then on top of that, for now all of a sudden, because it feels like that's like the new hottest thing to say is, well, you know, draft pick. Like, when was the last draft pick you could even name off the top of your head that was like top tier, top notch? You know what I mean? Outside of a couple, like DeGrom wasn't really supposed to be what he was. He came up and he was what he was. You know, Vientos wasn't supposed to be what he was. Look what he's doing right now. We had a debate on Alonso versus Dom Smith for the longest time. You know what I mean? Nimmo wasn't supposed to be what he was. It was Conforto that was up here that was supposed to be what Nimmo's doing. So at the end of the day, when we talk about draft, take that out your head. Look, it's better. If you want to build a culture in New York, it doesn't involve, or in Queens, I should say, it doesn't involve selling off for a second year in a row. That's not how you build a culture. How you build a culture is making it to the playoffs. I say this and I'll say it again. It's about getting hot at the right times. The Mets have got hot twice at the right time. They went 0-5 to start the season.
Yep.
They got hot to themselves back. The Mets found themselves 9 games under 500, or about 4 games out of the wild card third spot. They're getting hot at the right time. So there's a pattern that I'm seeing is that they're somehow figuring it out at the right times. Now it's about sustaining what you build and don't do the 5 steps forward, 10 steps back method. But maybe it's the 5 steps forward and maybe 1 step back, then 3 steps forward, and then 1 step back, and just play that game. It is much better for New York Mets baseball. I'm not even talking about fans. I'm not talking about for us, but it's much better for New York Mets baseball to be in the playoffs. It's much better for prospective free agents, which we all know that Stearns and Cohen have said this offseason is pretty much going to be no barrier on what they're going to spend. I'm sure there's going to be a limit, of course, but there isn't going to be what it was this year. A lot of money is coming in the books, whatever the case may be. This is why they said, come the trade deadline, Stearns has a chance to really earn his money, because if the Mets, and I liken it to, once again, 2015, that Mets team, and you could say different era, different time, whatever you want to throw out there. That 2015 season had Eric Campbell and John Mayberry batting 4th and 5th. Both of them had under 160 batting.
The first half of that season was so bad. And it was insane. It was so bad. And I hate to cut you off, but I always, what you just did, I always do the same thing. I always say it had John Mayberry, it had Eric Campbell, they had the game where Matt's led the team in RBIs against Cincinnati, where he's the one doing all the hitting. I went to a game that year against the Cubs. I sat in the upper deck, and it was hands down one of, if not the worst baseball games I ever watched live. I was done. I was like, this team freaking stinks. The Padres meltdown in the rain, all that stuff.
It was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And you could literally take those events that you said and you can mirror it what's happened in May. You can mirror it and say as bad, just like blowing leads, just like thinking you're up by 7 and then losing the lead all of a sudden. The guys that you thought were great are not great. The bat's not coming through. It was a constant. But the one thing that happened, and this is why I hold my hope where I hold it, because the Mets have consistently said, and like you said earlier, Stearns hasn't lied. This team wants to win. This team believes they have what it takes to win. One of the reasons why Beatty could stay in AAA and learn second base, for me, is because when trade deadline comes, if the Mets are in it, they can say, here, you have a brand new player. Give us a major leaguer back. You know what I mean? There's so many variables, and I know some people might think I'm talking crazy, but it's much better for New York Mets baseball to be playoff-bound baseball. I don't care how bad the NL is. I don't care how down and out it seems like the NL wildcard might be. I literally just watched Arizona. I'll say this again: Arizona Diamondbacks team make the World Series last year, where their best starting pitcher in the playoffs, Brandon Phillips, sported a 6+ ERA in the regular season and was sent down to the minors at one point. Came in the playoffs and did his thing. Tommy Pham was their number 4 hitter. Well, he was their cleanup hitter that went to the World Series. So for anybody who wants this team, because I hear it on the fan, and I know we're talking about the farm, about kids and all that, there has to be a perfect balance. There has to be a balance. You shouldn't have to force a guy out to let a kid play. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like for example, if you told me that they trade Harrison Beta to let a kid up, I don't think you really lose that much as long as the kid has a glove. If it's for Gilbert, you know what I mean? I don't think they lose as much as you think they lose. I agree. But if you're telling me, oh, we're gonna trade Pete Alonso and then have Ryan Clifford play first base. Like, not right now.
No,
Not right now.
too
I'd
early.
rather go. I'd rather try to fight for the contract, whatever. But point being is that the form is good enough to where it's going to be here in the off season. I think if you let him season, let him build, and let him have a hell of a fucking, a hell of a spring training next year to battle for spots. When you have what you have, you spend the money that you spent, and you believe in who you believe in. I think that the mixture from the farm is going to come from the starters more than the position players. So I do think a guy like Quintana, or whatever the case may be, we will see a guy like Christian Scott eventually take his place. We see Peterson do what he's doing. McGill might get replaced by Budo. Like it's really a cat and mouse game that's happening with the starters, and I think that's the most action we're going to see as far as the farm goes this year is with that position, unless a major injury, knock on what happens. But it's much better for us to be winners, to make it somewhere, to make noise, because what happens is a guy, not only, of course, when they see dollar signs, they want to come, but not only when they see dollar signs, because it's not like we didn't have George Springer reject us before. Kevin Gausman rejected us before when we gave him the highest offer, because they saw the Mets weren't winning. So sometimes that goes into it, So, and like, people want to throw all these free agent names into it. Like, guys, let's enjoy winning baseball. And the farm is close. The farm is close. And I think this is the best farm we've seen in a very long time, from top to bottom, if I'm not mistaken, from starters to all the way down. So
I'm hoping when it comes to the farm that I'm very ecstatic, and I have been for weeks. When I do my on the farm segment, I'm talking about whether it's Blade Tidwell or Brendan Sproat has been awesome, and we all know what Christian Scott has been doing. Very excited about the pitching. Very excited about the pitching. I'm just hopeful that the bats have struggled this year, mainly because they haven't been healthy. A lot of guys have gotten banged up, but I'm very pumped up that a comment came in before with it was Shea saying that 2 weeks, Gilbert should be back from the hamstring. I'm a big proponent, big fan of Drew Gilbert. Hopefully he can show something in the second half. Obviously Jet Williams is done for the year with his wrist. Kevin Parada got banged up. It's great to see Ryan Clifford doing well. It's great to see Luis Acuna finding a little bit of footing as well. But the pitching looks great, and I'm hopeful that the hitting can bring it around as well. We'll get out of here real quick with some of the comments. And we did for a moment have Darren in here. I don't know if he's still here, but Darren, absolute scenes from the UK Smash. I like about the lads here, absolute legends. Always a pleasure when you stop in, Darren. Appreciate you, brother. Really, really appreciate it. We got Shay coming in here saying that the only C word here today is cheeseburger for Grimace. It's a good one. It's a good play on words. I like it. Rael saying that my wife is jealous of Canva. That's another C word right there. Yes, I'm often on Canva a lot, but at the same time, Rael, I'm also helping my wife when it comes to the work that she has to do for her job in creating things on Canva. So I do have a little bit of leeway there.
I'm jealous of Ibby's wife, because Ibby's such a handsome.
Please stop. You already made the show. You don't got to keep kissing my ass. You're on the show. Rael coming in with another one, also saying how, did I ever think that Grimace might have come in to bring some purple haze into my life during your Nate Lavender mourning period? It's a name I didn't think I would hear, but it is purple.
You just got struck out by Nate Lavender.
I do miss Nate Lavender. But, the Grimace era, everything that's going on, it's so much fun. I'm having a great time. And, I got to say that I'm pumped up that you were able to be the guest and the co-host today, Tone, because, no pun, your tone and how you've talked about this team really fits with what's been going on. And it was just the perfect mix and match for this show today. So I'm happy you were able to make things work and come on here and talk baseball. And look, from the looks of it, everyone enjoyed the time, the hour and a half that you gave us to sit here, talk some ball like we like to do here. And I appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for making it work.
Yeah, and hopefully we could do this when John is on here as well.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to beg for another year, so chat, please get on Ibby to have me back on one of these days. It's a lot of work begging the man. It feels weird at some point. I'm like, please give me something, and I feel like I'm asking for crack at this point to get on the show. But anyway, I do podcasts here and there. I don't do this consistently because I don't have the amazing quality content that these guys have, and I can't talk the same thing every single week like these gentlemen can. Mets Trucker Podcast. You can find me on YouTube. Like it, subscribe. Eventually, the video will come out. But when it does, I promise you, it's quality stuff.
Always quality stuff.
But if not, you can find me on Twitter, bashing Mets Twitter, because that's what I do these days. Tone from Queens. Thing is right down there. And when I bash Mets Twitter, it's not all of you guys. I just want to explain that I've been trying to be positive as hell about this team since day one. I've found everything from signing Manaea, signing Sebi, trying to understand the Joey Wendell. I've tried to make something out of everything. And it's been hell fighting people off because I get poked at for being so damn positive. But we're here, 7-win streak. The Grimace era is in full swing. But I will say this. I want you guys to think deeply and remember where you were when the Grimace era took place. This might be one to remember.
Couple of things before we get out of here to give Tone his forever flowers. Agree, Tone. Appreciate you. Armand saying, great job, Tone. Rosie K letting everyone know have a great evening. Armand wants me to do a wrestling show. Armand, if you want to talk wrestling with me, brother, I will talk wrestling with you. Look, Tone over here was a big fan of ECW and WCW as well. So if he wants to jump on, he can talk too. Darren Rivera, who's always in everyone's show, giving love. Yes, Tone, thumbs up. Tone is the man. Junior Swingman coming in saying, hey, John lost a spot. Tone took over. Coming in with that. Mr. Nobody letting us know he wants everyone to have a good day, a good night. Let's go Mets. Grimace, great show from Douglas Barnes. Look, we do it for all of you. Talking Mets with Rob, I know that they're live or they did the pregame or for their show. I don't know if they still are, but either way, appreciate you, Rob, for stopping by real quick. All the love for you as well, and CP and everyone over at the roundtable, Hector and Hayden. Always watching your stuff as well and appreciate everything that you guys do. But yeah, a lot of great Mets content is out there. A lot of great within this community. You got one right next to me right now. When he chooses to do it, it's always quality content. But yeah, everyone that's here, 222 of you. It's a good number. 222 of you. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It helps us with the algorithm. If you're on the Twitter side, which I guarantee a majority of you are, make sure you head on over to YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hey, there's a promo code over there, Manscaped. Shave your balls. Do what you got to do. Take care of your man or your ladies or whatever you got to do if you need something to shave, okay? Manscaped, TMDUP at checkout, 20% off, free shipping. It's a great product. Do what you got to do. But that's all I got. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you, Tone, for coming in and having a conversation with me today. It was fantastic and went the way I thought that it would. Let's go, Mets. Let's continue this run. Let's have some fun. Let's watch some good baseball. Let's get a win. And let's keep these good vibes up because I like it when I get to wear this hat. I like the good vibes hat, okay? Everyone knows I love wearing different hats, but I love when I get to wear the good vibes hat because that means we're watching good Mets baseball. Peace and love to each and every one of you. Let's go Mets, and let's get some wins. I'll see you next week.